you ever stayed at an Airbnb and felt like something wasn't quite right? Maybe it was a strange noise in the middle of the night, or an uneasy feeling you just couldn't shake. For most of us, these experiences end up being harmless. But for a few unlucky travelers, their Airbnb stays turned into absolute nightmares. Stories so chilling they'll make you think twice before booking your next trip. In today's video, we're diving into 5 of the scariest Airbnb horror stories ever told. These aren't just ordinary tales of bad hosts or messy rooms. They're full of hidden cameras, mysterious locked doors, unwelcome visitors, and even haunted mansions. Stay with me until the end, because the last story will leave you questioning reality itself. And you won't want to miss it. Plus, I'll share a chilling bonus tip on how to avoid situations like these when booking your stays. Let's get started with our first spine-chilling tale. And trust me, you'll never look at an Airbnb the same way again. Imagine this. You arrive at your Airbnb after a long day of travel. The place is perfect, clean, cozy, and exactly as advertised. You drop your bags, settle in, and start to relax. But what if I told you someone might be watching your every move? That's what happened to a young couple who booked a highly rated Airbnb in the heart of the city. At first, everything seemed normal. The host was polite. The apartment looked even better than the photos, and the couple felt lucky to have found such a great deal. The first night passed without incident, but on the second day, the husband started noticing odd details. A small device behind a potted plant caught his attention. It looked like an ordinary motion sensor, but something about it didn't seem right. Curiosity got the better of him, and he decided to take a closer look. That's when he realized it wasn't just a motion sensor. It was a hidden camera. A chill ran down his spine. Who had been watching them, and for how long? Panicked, they began searching the apartment for other devices. To their horror, they found more cameras. One was cleverly disguised as a smoke detector in the bedroom, positioned to capture the entire room. Another was hidden inside an air freshener in the bathroom. Every discovery felt like a violation of their privacy, and the couple could hardly believe what they were seeing. They immediately packed their bags and left the property. Once they were safely outside, they called the police and reported the incident to Airbnb. The authorities later uncovered that the host had been using hidden cameras in multiple properties, recording guests without their knowledge. Worse yet, the footage was being shared on illegal websites. This nightmare left the couple shaken, and it serves as a chilling reminder to always be vigilant, even in spaces that seem safe. What about you? What would you do if you found hidden cameras in your Airbnb? Would you stay and confront the host, or would you leave immediately? You ever stayed in a place where one detail keeps nagging at you, even when everything else seems perfect? That's exactly what happened to Emily when she booked a quiet, remote cabin for a much-needed weekend getaway. She was looking forward to solitude and relaxation, surrounded by nothing but trees and fresh air. But the cabin held a secret that would haunt her long after she left. When Emily arrived, the cabin was just as advertised, cozy, rustic, and tucked away from civilization. The host had left a welcome note and instructions on how to use the fireplace, but there was one thing in the message that stood out: a mention of a locked door at the end of the hallway. The host explained it was just a storage space and not to be opened. Emily didn't think much of it at first. Her first day was uneventful. She spent the afternoon reading by the fire and enjoying the stillness of the woods. But that night, she started hearing faint sounds, soft taps and creaks coming from the direction of the locked door. She dismissed it as the house settling or the wind playing tricks. After all, old cabins make noises, right? By the second night, the sounds had grown louder. This time, it wasn't just tapping. It sounded like shuffling footsteps coming from behind the door. Emily's unease deepened when she noticed something she hadn't seen before. Faint scratch marks on the wood near the bottom of the door. They weren't fresh, but they were too deliberate to ignore. Curiosity and fear kept Emily awake that night. She tried to rationalize the noises, but couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. When she texted the host the next morning, their reply was unnervingly short. "It's nothing to worry about, just storage." That night, the noises became impossible to ignore. The shuffling turned into thuds, as if something or someone was trying to get out. Emily's heart raced as she approached the door, armed only with her phone's flashlight. She crouched down to look through the thin gap at the bottom. Her blood ran cold when she saw movement, a shadow shifting back and forth, accompanied by the unmistakable sound of heavy breathing. Terrified, Emily grabbed her belongings and bolted from the cabin in the middle of the night. She didn't even bother to text the host again. Once she was safely away, she told a local about her experience. That's when she learned the chilling history of the property. The cabin's previous owner was a recluse who had been accused of trapping animals, and possibly people, inside his home. Although no charges had ever been proven, the rumors were enough to scare the locals. Emily never found out what or who was behind that locked door, but she knew one thing for certain. She would never stay at a remote Airbnb again. You're in the middle of a quiet getaway with your partner, staying in a beautiful Airbnb cottage on the edge of town. Everything seems peaceful until you realize you're not as alone as you thought. That's exactly what happened to Ryan and Claire on what was supposed to be a relaxing weekend escape. The cottage was picture perfect. It had a rustic charm with wooden beams, a cozy fireplace, and a garden that stretched into the woods. The host's welcome message assured them they'd have the entire property to themselves. For the first night, everything felt ideal. They cooked dinner, watched a movie, and settled in for a quiet night's sleep. But then Claire woke up. At first, it was a faint noise, a creak from above. She nudged Ryan and whispered, "Did you hear that?" He groggily dismissed it as the old house settling, but Claire wasn't so sure. It sounded like footsteps, slow and deliberate, coming from the attic. The next morning, Claire couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She checked the house and noticed something strange. The kitchen window was unlocked. She was sure she'd locked it before going to bed. When she brought it up to Ryan, he tried to reassure her. "Maybe you just forgot," he said. But even he started feeling uneasy when they noticed small scuff marks on the windowsill, as if someone had climbed through. That night, their fears were confirmed. As they were getting ready for bed, they heard it again. Loud, deliberate footsteps from the attic. This time, Ryan grabbed a flashlight and decided to investigate. Claire begged him to wait until morning, but he insisted on checking it out. He climbed the narrow stairs to the attic, his heart pounding with every step. At the top, his flashlight beam swept across the room and froze. There, in the corner, was a makeshift living space, a sleeping bag, food wrappers, and empty water bottles. It was clear someone had been staying there for days, maybe even weeks. Before Ryan could react, he heard a loud noise behind him. He turned to see a figure darting down the stairs. "Claire, call the police," he shouted as he ran after the intruder. The police arrived quickly. and discovered that the man was a local drifter who had been sneaking into the house through the unlocked kitchen window. He would hide in the attic during the day and move around only when guests were asleep. The host claimed they had no idea about the intruder, but Ryan and Claire couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story than they were being told. This horrifying experience left them shaken, but it also served as a reminder to double-check the security of any rental property, especially remote ones. Imagine booking an Airbnb where the host seems a little too eager to help. At first, it feels like great service, but what if that kindness hides something far more sinister? That's what happened to a solo traveler named Sarah, who booked a charming farmhouse for a week-long retreat in the countryside. From the beginning, the host's behavior was unusual. He greeted Sarah with a warm smile and went out of his way to give her an extended tour of the property. At first, she appreciated his friendliness. He pointed out great hiking trails, offered to bring fresh eggs from his chickens, and even mentioned that he lived just a few minutes away if she needed anything. The first couple of days passed without incident. Sarah enjoyed the peace and quiet, taking walks in the fields and reading on the porch, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Every time she stepped outside, it felt like she was being watched. At night, she noticed strange sounds coming from the woods, branches snapping, faint whispers, and once, the sound of footsteps crunching on the gravel driveway. Sarah tried to tell herself it was just her imagination, but on the third night, things took a terrifying turn. She returned from a hike to find the farmhouse door slightly ajar. Inside, she noticed small, unsettling details. A chair had been moved, her belongings in the bathroom had been shifted, and the kitchen window was now open. Panicked, Sarah called the host to ask if he had come by. His response was strange. He laughed it off and said, "Oh, I might have stopped in to check on things. I didn't think you'd mind." That was enough for Sarah. She decided to pack her bags and leave first thing in the morning. But when she woke up, the host was gone, completely unreachable. His phone went straight to voicemail, and even his Airbnb profile had been deleted overnight. Sarah left immediately, shaken by the whole ordeal. A few days later, she received a chilling email from the police. A neighbor had reported suspicious activity at the farmhouse, and upon investigation, authorities found disturbing evidence in the basement. A collection of photos of past Airbnb guests, including Sarah, taken without their knowledge. The farmhouse was shut down, and the host disappeared without a trace. Sarah was left with countless questions. How long had he been watching her? And what had he planned to do if she had stayed one more night? This story is a stark reminder to trust your instincts and always stay vigilant. If you ever feel uneasy about a situation, it's better to leave sooner rather than later. What if your dream vacation rental came with a nightmare you couldn't explain? That's what happened to a group of friends who rented a luxurious mansion for a weekend getaway. They were expecting a fun, relaxing trip, but what they experienced left them shaken to the core. The mansion was stunning. It had sprawling gardens, grand staircases, and enough rooms for everyone to have their own space. The host had mentioned the property had a lot of history, but they didn't think much of it at the time. They were too busy marveling at the antique furniture and massive chandeliers. The first night passed without much excitement. They cooked a big dinner, played games, and laughed late into the night. But as they were heading to bed, one of the friends, Jenna, swore she heard a faint whisper in the hallway. She brushed it off, thinking it was just her imagination or the wind outside. The next day, things started to get strange. While exploring the house, they found a locked room in the basement. It wasn't mentioned in the listing, and when they asked the host about it, they received a vague reply. "Oh, it's just storage. Best to leave it alone." That night, the eerie occurrences escalated. Doors slammed shut on their own. Cold drafts swept through rooms with no open windows, and strange, unexplainable shadows appeared in the corners of their vision. Jenna was the first to panic when she woke up to the feeling of someone standing at the foot of her bed. But when she turned on the light, no one was there. The final straw came when they decided to explore the basement, despite the host's warning. They managed to pick the lock and found what looked like an old servant's quarters, dusty, dark, and filled with broken furniture. But in the corner of the room was something even more chilling. An old wooden chair with restraints on the arms and legs, sitting in the middle of a faded chalk circle. They didn't stick around to find out what it was for. The group packed up and left in the middle of the night, too scared to even wait until morning. Later, they discovered the mansion's dark history. It had once been owned by a reclusive family known for hosting strange, secretive gatherings. Some locals even claimed the house was cursed, and that anyone who stayed there would experience unexplainable events. The friends never got an explanation for what they experienced in that mansion. But one thing was certain. None of them would ever step foot in an Airbnb again without researching its history first. Airbnbs can offer incredible experiences, but they can also come with unexpected horrors. Whether it's hidden cameras, locked doors, or a host with sinister intentions, these stories remind us to always stay alert and trust our instincts. Which story creeped you out the most? Or have you ever had a terrifying experience at an Airbnb? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your stories. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more chilling tales.